Hello, this is Brendan. We're back again with another draw along video here, and a lot is new in this episode because I'm not only switching software but operating systems. I've gone to Photoshop this time, or at least I'm trying Photoshop, and not necessarily liking or disliking it at the moment or preferring it. I like the GIMP. I was perfectly happy with it, but it wasn't working on this new Windows 7 installation I have. So yeah, we're going to do this. With a request to have a look at shoulders. So I went into just went into Google Images and did a quick reference study to make sure that I was the things were how I was imagining them. And this one right here, the front part of the body, I did this from imagination, and then when I went and checked on Google, I didn't have any problems with this at all. I thought I did a pretty good job. When you look at it, it just looks natural too. Mind you, we're just looking at this area here. The shoulders is what we're focusing on today. So that was that. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be fumbling around in this video a bit because I'm using this new software, and I can't. Photoshop doesn't allow you to set the keys exactly how you want them. You're like limited in your options, which is kind of weird. But anyway, we'll talk about that later maybe. Now for the back of the shoulders on the male figure here, this got weird, as you can tell probably, because this is I've always thought this is just the most complicated thing actually, and that's a really good point. I'm glad that came up because a lot of people say things like hands are the hardest thing to draw, the most complicated thing. Some people might say they have problems with the feet, or faces can be hard too because you got to get them just right to make them recognizable. But in all honesty, of all the things on the human body, it's the back of a male is really the most confusing thing to draw because they all look different. If he's not a muscle bound kind of bodybuilder, that's fine. But in a lot of situations you're drawing, you want people to look like superheroes or famous actors or something. You want them to look kind of muscular. You want to get that Hollywood kind of feeling out of it. And then the back muscles are just so complicated, really, that it's unbelievable, really, when you get into it. There's so much going on back there, and if you look at a series of bodybuilders, they all look different in the back. It depends on how you work out these muscles that'll determine what they end up looking like. Now this is a very exaggerated version of what this is actually like in the back, but some of the things I just wanted to exaggerate it intentionally to show that one thing is that you have some direction going up this way with the there's these behind just above the shoulder blades here. Going up in this direction, right? And so that is that's one set of muscles out of a bunch that need to be recognized in order to get the shoulders right. Another batch is this right here, sort of a triangle thing that goes on right here and right here. And these are muscles that obviously will help your shoulders. Imagine if you're a bird and you're flapping your wings. It'll help your shoulders to move forward and backwards, right? And to control to hold your back upright. So if you try to exaggerate your posture and look that's the wrong hotkey. And look like you're very standing up with perfect posture, these muscles are probably what would be holding you up, these wing-like things here. So that's those. You have this set here, and then these triangle sets here, and then something that might be important to notice is where they all kind of meet around these locations here. That might be something interesting to point out. It'll make it a little easier for you, because here you have the shoulder muscles. They're going to come back and meet up here because you need to swing your arms back sometimes, so you need those muscles there to pull it back, right? And these ones also seem to meet in that same location. So where they begin and where they end, that's always pretty important, right? And these here, it's like this big sheet of muscle, these triangle wing-like things, as I call them. It's really just a big sheet of muscle that goes there, and they can grow just completely differently depending on what kind of exercise you do or how you work out or something. And of course, this is for what would either be considered a stereotypical male kind of character, or it could be female too, just somebody who's very muscular and works out a lot. Otherwise, you wouldn't even need all this, right? So we'll just take that away. But it's good to know that that's there. And if there's any kind of form to the body at all, if they're not very fat or something, you often tend to have this line down the middle. That's where your spine is, obviously. And so just be a bit more rough. Let's have the bottom part of that triangle there. And get rid of some of this stuff. And these muscles in the back do come back, right? The shoulder muscles, it does come back and lap up, kind of wrap around over there like that. So this, they'll come back like that a little bit, this like that, and just do faint lines like this, and maybe something like that. I didn't like those last two, but it just to be rough, it's kind of something like that. And as you can see, I am fumbling around a lot. So that's one thing with the back. It gets really complicated, but if he's not a real, just muscle-bound superhero, he or she, then it would just, you can get away with some simple lines like that and just pull it off. Now, obviously, the fundamental structure of this, he's got his spine stops here. You've got this is the main spine. I can't remember. They call it the upper vertebrae and the main vertebrae or something like this. I forget the medical terms, but they're scientific terms. And then you have, I guess it's called the upper vertebrae. This part that goes up to your spine where it touches your brain and connects right there. I'm not doing a medical science class here, just so you get the general idea. And there's a turning point right here. Now that turning point where it goes from the neck part of the spine to the body of the spine, you can just feel it out right about here. If these muscles are here, I feel like it's there. I think it's above the shoulders. It always feels to me, because if you think like if you put in mind of kind of like, oh geez, I really am fumbling around here. Get over here and do, if I were to do real quick, like sort of an animal like a dog or something when he's looking down, and go like this real quickly. You see the dog's here, and then he has his foot. I got to research on how to do the paws correctly and all this, but I'm just saying, for example, if there's a dog right here, you can see right here how his neck, it kind of goes up like that. If you have a dog, you can go feel the back of his neck. Because they have, kind of a neck that goes like this. It's a very powerful neck that can, swing around. It's designed to be able to, like, turn fast and bite and stuff like that. Because the head and the mouth of a dog, as well as many other animals, that's like their tool. They use their mouth as their hand, right? And so, if you can see, this is where their spine splits. There's your back there, and this is the neck part of the vertebrae, and they have tons of muscle inside here to make their necks really strong. So with us and people, that part happens back here. We have the same thing. There's a breaking point right here where you have the lower part of the spine and the higher part right up there. So you need to remember that that's there, and that the neck, it has a tendency to lean forward, but also, not necessarily. A lot of people, when they stand up straight, upright, their necks will be perfectly straight from the back and go. It depends on, what you're doing. If you're leaning over, looking at a desk, reading a book on a desk, bad posture, then maybe your neck will be leaning over a little. But it depends on your posture. I don't think it's unnatural at all for your neck to lean forward a little bit. A lot of people do that, especially if there's a lot of muscle in here. It might force you to lean over a little. Okay, so that's that for the general idea here. And play with these tools. It's really hard to set up Photoshop the way I want. I mean, I couldn't, basically. They said it. You have to use I like to use a number pad. Like if you have a big keyboard for a desktop, there's a number pad with only numbers on it on the right hand side, because that way you have all these keys right there lined up perfectly, and you tap this one or that one and you get used to it. But in Photoshop, they say you have to use the letter keys A through Z for a lot of these things, and then in addition to that, some of them require that you use a control if you want to set a hotkey for something. And so But you got to have the hotkeys. You know, just it'll take so long. If every time you got to switch a tool or something, you have to go up here and over there, that's just not going to work at all. But yeah, I got at least like 4 or 5 set up so I can operate like I normally do. So going back to this one here, what's important with this here is the collarbone is really important for me. I'm going to draw another one from scratch in a minute. I just want to point these out real quick. And the collarbone, it kind of like just goes straight across right here when you're in the front view there. And then let me get to erase mode here. And you have these 2 little dimples that come out here. Now you're not always going to see those. Again, I'm exaggerating these for a lot of reasons. But those are there. I'm not going to say I know exactly why they're there, but they happen to be where your neck, you have 2 neck muscles that help you to turn your head left and right. It happens to be exactly where they connect. And then in the middle you have your voice box. Just like if you see a guy who has Adam's apple, you know, it's usually, well, I mean, girls do too, but they usually say it's kind of supposed to be more of a guy thing. But yeah, it doesn't bother me. There's a lot of pretty girls with the Adam's apple sometimes. I guess they look more effeminate if they don't have Adam's apple. It looks kind of masculine. So just quickly from a side view here, I would do like kind of an Adam's apple. Let me erase some of this stuff so it looks a bit more like a human head. The nose coming out around here, the eyes, blah blah blah. Okay, so we're going to have an Adam's apple coming out here. Then there's this muscle that comes from, I think it's from behind or under the jaw, and it goes all the way back. I should double check on that, or you can just go check on, you know, look for anatomy. And then, you know, your shoulders will be coming out around here on the side. So there's that muscle that comes around from the side there. It's just one. And then if you look from the front view, obviously there's 2 of them. You have one over here and one over here. And again, we don't normally draw this stuff out, but just to know that it's there is going to help you to make a more realistic shoulder and neck area. This is all like one component. You know, if you want to study how to make shoulders, then you got to know all of these things. So if I were to just draw a silhouette, knowing all that stuff now, well, let me point out a couple more things before I go to do a silhouette. Also, this line here, the collarbone, it hits the top of the shoulders right here, right? You might think, oh, well, that looks like it should be going down, and it's the joint of his shoulder, but it's not actually. It's it touches the top of the shoulder, and then the bone for his joint, it comes down. It's a separate thing down here. So you do want that, even though it might look a little weird sometimes, but it comes right over. It just comes right to the top of the shoulder like that. Okay, so how do we get started with all this? And then of course we have the chest as usual. It's basically like what do you call it? It's almost like a square, but you bring out the sides a little bit because this, there's a square inside here, but the muscle comes out and attaches itself over here somewhere somehow. Don't need to know perfectly all that detail, but it's there. Then you have these, whatever you call them, nipples or something. It feels weird to say nipples, but well, we don't have a better word in English for that yet, I guess. So. Okay, so these things are here. There's a voice box, and we want to make this whole, shoulder area. So let's have a try at that. And I'm fumbling around the software here. So rather do it again. As usual, you always want to start off with the head. Try and make it not too sloppy like me. I'm doing it very, very sloppy. It's very sketchy. Another problem I'm having right now with this software is that I'd normally put the Wacom tablet in relative mode, I think. They have 2 modes. You have like full screen or relative. So either when you draw on the tablet, it's going to mimic wherever you put your pen down on the Wacom tablet, or it's going to just wherever you left the mouse cursor last time. Then when you come down again, it'll still be there. So I'm comfortable with the latter of the two. I like the mouse. Like if I put my mouse here and then I take it off and I come back, I don't want it to suddenly be over there. But that's not the case. I have this like static positioning. There's because when I try to put it on the other option with with this Windows 7 software and the drivers and this and that. I was literally going, for days trying to fix this problem, and I just couldn't fix it. And I said, okay, fine. I'll just have to get used to drawing like this. So I'm using the full width of the tablet now, and I have to move my hand. It's actually kind of exhausting. But anyway, I don't even know if that's, if you can even understand that. It's kind of a complicated thing. Point is, I could not change that mode. So what I'm doing here, first over the head, you definitely want to have the neck come down a little bit, or else it'll look like a no neck, right? And then you make these little curves right here. If you can imagine, there's like little footballs inside there, because that's some muscles that help to keep your shoulders up, basically, or I'm sure they serve various purposes. And then of course you have your shoulders, which is, it's basically like a round ball, but not that round. It should come down and get more of think of teardrops a lot when you're doing muscles, whether it be male or female. Especially with a male, they're like, a lot of male muscles are like short teardrops like this. And then when you get into female muscles, you'll find these long teardrops, right? Because that has more elegance to it. But men have these, these strong, powerful little muscles. So they're built up. They have some power in there. That's a good thing. So after I do that, then I always start off with those two, again fumbling around here, those two little dimples in there, and it's easy to represent that just by making basically a little curve like that. And you don't have to like draw them out like this or anything, because that's exaggerating way too much. But just make a little dimple in there so that we know there's a collarbone interface right there. And notice how where the place where I put that, number 1, it's at the top of the shoulders. Number 2, look at how it makes kind of a nice line so that it makes the neck round when it comes right there. You want to hit that sweet spot right there. Get it right in that spot right there, so you can almost feel the space from here to there, and that really kind of makes it a neck. So do that. You do a little bit of this with the collarbone, and then before we turn his neck into a cone, which is what we don't want to do, you want to definitely avoid that. Remember, there's two muscles from the side, and try to have it feel like there's a combination of two things going on. One, the skin from his neck is going over, and overlapping over here, and at the same time we do have those muscles coming from behind there, and the voice box in the middle. Just keep that in mind. You don't have to draw it all out, but basically kind of how I did right here, just very lightly you can represent that a little if you want him to look muscular. And of course in a minute we'll do a female, so you can see without the muscle, or even just like a scrawny guy. So there you go, and just put some face in here and make sure it looks kind of human. Yeah, something like that. And there you get your shoulders. Chest come down. Again, you do your box. I usually start off with just like a line in the middle, make sure my symmetry is okay, a couple lines down here, and then bring it up around the side like that. And that's about it. Have his arms just flailing out here, because I don't know what he was supposed to be doing. Maybe he's doing nothing. And then the chest comes in like this, the rib cage and all that. So that would be your shoulders area right there. We'll try another one with more delicate frame. Maybe we'll try and do a female. I'm not even sure if this video will work, because I have new video software amongst other things. I can't even remember. It's like OBS or something. Experimenting with it. So what would I do? Making her smaller. She doesn't have to be that small. Let me see. Right. Now, as usual with the female, we're going to get more of a teardrop kind of thing. Make her look a little bit more delicate. And not to say that her chin should come to a point, but don't try and make the jawline so prominent. Of course, we're focusing on shoulder, so that's not so important. Now, the female, again, going stereotypical, my favorite word, the mold. As most people are used to it, you would usually expect the female neck to be a little bit thinner. And so that's like that. And this is actually, some of these things are like scientific facts. You can look them up. Whereas the male's shoulders are very broad, it would be expected that a female's shoulders would be a lot less broad. So if he's from here all the way to over there, with her, I might just go maybe from here, from here to there, right? Not this great, massive, wide thing. With a guy, the broader the better, makes him look stronger. But not so broad it looks ridiculous. But make it a little bit broader. She can have some muscle tone in here too. That's fine, but it just shouldn't be, shouldn't be like bulging. Or even if it is, because you can be a female who's bodybuilder, but even still, she should have some kind of I don't know, finesse. It's just a female body form, really. And so now with her shoulders, we'll do the same thing with the collarbone. Remember where her neck is, and remember where the top of the shoulders are, and try and hit that sweet spot right there. Obviously, I made her a little lopsided. Let's just pretend that she's doing something that would make her lopsided. And let's see, I don't want to make this, I want to make her look too skinny or something, but she's going to have not as much structure to her. And the side of her, whereas this guy is massive on the sides over here, he's coming in with these giant muscles from the outside there. With her, we don't need that. However, we'll obviously have breasts that would come out. So just, for these purposes, I'll just leave her like that. I'm not going to give detail on that. It's just shoulders. So even, if you look at this, for a girl, those are actually, might be considered kind of like pretty, let me try and change my pen size. Okay. These might actually be pretty strong shoulders if this were reality. Maybe standing next to him, she looks not like, doesn't look like much. But the fact that there's this curve coming out like that, it's actually pretty strong. We could even like bring it down, just tone it down a notch and make it more like almost as if there's no muscle tone in there. So it's just you can feel the bone coming up, touching here, and then there's the joint around here, and then this upper arm bone is right there. I don't know exactly what it's called. But so you get the feeling that there's not a lot of like strength or power in the muscle. It's just kind of like, not to say it's sagging exactly, but it's not like all rounded and well formed and buff and stuff like that. So there you get female shoulders. And again, that's pretty realistic, just like that already. If we zoom back a little, you can tell you got a guy over there and a female over there. I wish I could flip it around. I don't know how to do that. This actually ended up looking like a donkey and not a dog. I'm just noticing that. I think his head is too big or something, and I have to look at some reference to get the legs correctly. Anyway, you got the point. With any like long-necked animal like that, including like it could be anything like a bear or a dog or something, they usually have bigger, stronger necks, and so I use that just to exaggerate what is also happening on the human form in the back here. Okay, so that's about that. And then if I can real quickly make a new layer, hide this one, and see if we can't have some fun with that for our last drawing. And I'll just put this in a time lapse, or actually I may or may not. I might just draw, because I'm not even sure how to do the time lapse. What I'm going to do for this big guy right here could be someone like the Incredible Hulk, or maybe not. Maybe didn't finish my sentence there very well, did I? Getting into the drawing. Maybe sort of just any kind of big, super powerful guy. And I'll go back like this. It's not too hard drawing on this new surface. There's some of the problems I had were that just come down here. Don't forget that part. Yeah. Some of the problems I had with the hotkeys were a problem. Really didn't appreciate, what they were doing here the Adobe, it's a pay-for software, so if I've been using free software all these years, and the free software allows me to set my hotkeys however I want to because it's my software and I paid for it, or even though I didn't pay for it, it's just decent software. They're hotkeys, they're my hotkeys, right? They're not your hotkeys. And but that didn't seem to be the case really with Adobe. Seems to disagree with that. So now I gotta tell you, Adobe is my favorite of all software companies on planet Earth. Really do like them. So I don't mean it as a hit against them. Don't mean to be knocking them down a notch or anything like that. But it is, it's kind of striking that you have a software. It's very expensive software. Has been. I remember last time it was like $1,000 or something. I'm doing this through the free trial with Creative Cloud, not Creative Cloud, Creative Cloud. And I do plan to pay for it. I just figured I'd get my free trial first and then see what happens after that. That could make the GIMP work, really. I'd be happy to just stay with the GIMP. But this is supposed to be superior software, right? So I figured it's not that expensive. I can afford it. So I'll give it a shot. At least with a creative cloud thing. Gotta figure out how to say that. If it was still like $1,000 the way it was before, then just forget it. There's no way I could do that. Again, not that I can't afford it. I can't justify the cost really. It's just so expensive. But the this deal they have going on seems alright. It's like $10 a month or something. So I use it for a few months, see if I like it. Then if I do, maybe I can buy like a full version. I'm not sure if they even still do that. So here's the neck muscles coming down. He's exaggerated on this guy. And there's some veins and stuff that go up here, right? Now remember, you're still, everywhere you go, people have like veins. Really muscular guy, you can do things like this and just draw a vein around here and there. Nobody's really going to notice a difference anyway. I don't know if you can really pinpoint exactly where some guy has veins and some other guy doesn't. But I know if you make a veiny kid, it's not even really good looking. I don't think. It's kind of disgusting to have veins. But when you're doing, it's just something to add to all of the work that you're doing. Adds detail, That's why it's interesting. There's somebody who was actually asking the other day, said, what do you think is more beautiful, the male body or the female body? Excellent question. Well, as a male, the first thing that comes out of your mouth, obviously, first thing comes to your mind is certainly going to be the female body. But as an artist, it might make you stop and think for a minute. I'm not 100% sure. Definitely the female body is more attractive, and they say it's the perfect form of the human and stuff like that. If you didn't know that, maybe look it up. It is one of those things people say. But the male body has so much more interest to it for me as an artist. There's so much more that I can draw, so much more that I can do with it. You have all these like curves and shapes and the muscle. With a female body, it's more of a matter of finesse, really, of getting those curves and grooves and stuff exactly as they should be. Now, this is a really good example of doing this. The side view, there's a reason I did this. It was on purpose. It's because I want you to notice when you're looking from a side, this is a challenge. A lot of people see the neck's coming down from his chin because his head's pointing downward, and then you have the back of his neck's over here. So it would make you feel naturally, say like, oh, then I guess the shoulder should come down like this. And that is true in some cases if he's moving that arm in a certain way, but in a lot of cases it's not. What's going to happen, even with a regular person, even if they don't have lots of muscle, that shoulder is actually going to end up popping right out about where his mouth is. And then, the rest of his chest will be over here blocking the way of the shoulder because you're looking at him from this side, so the other side of his shoulder, you're just basically not going to see it. And, of course, it's really important in relation as to where his other arm is, what it's doing. If he's holding something up, then his arm would be out like that, obviously. But in this case, it's not. So just something like that. Focus on the Adam's apple a bit. Make that stand out a bit more. Just doing all these super exaggerated things to make it look like, artsy and detailed and stuff. And muscle bound guy. Kind of liked him without the pupils, really. Maybe just subtle like that. That's about all I'm going to do with this. So it's just quick, showing a bunch of details around there like that. Thought it'd be interesting. And that's it for the video. This already went quite long. I'm not even sure it's going to work. I hope it does. There's a review of some of the stuff we did earlier with the these guys. And I cannot zoom in. Okay. Just remember you have oh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You have these signs. Oh, jeez. How'd that happen? Now I'm down here again. Okay. So you have these. It keeps doing that. You have this line across here. Always keep your symmetry correct there. Right? And then, the muscles that come around here. Adam's apple. Everybody has these things. And if you remember those little tips, I think it'll help you a lot to build your shoulders. And of course, from the side view, it's just rather important. Notice how sometimes the neck will bend in a little bit, hover over, because of the effect that I said that's from nature. A lot of people do actually have perfectly upright necks. You just got to look around. There's different types of people. And then always remember these muscles here, as well as the Adam's apple. They will help to define a lot of the shape that's going on there. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a nice day. Goodbye.